All right. Looks like we are good to go here. So for this jam stream, I'm trying something a little bit different. So today is going to be a bit more of an experiment than some of the previous ones. And I'm going to need some help from the chat as people file in, because I'm going to need to tweak and get my sound settings squared away since I'm using a new piece of hardware. Right now, I'm looking at the OBS readout to see how my mic is doing. This one's probably coming in a little bit lower than previous streams because I'm using a completely different interface. It's the same mic, but it's being hooked up into a separate sound device instead of just an external sound interface. But I know this one suffers from needing a higher sensitivity. I just don't want to put my sensitivity all the way up in case it's blowing out the volume for people. All right, effects should be fine. Should be able to just toggle my reverb by doing this. And I've got a bit of control as far as how much I can set my reverb, which is nice. Let me try and adjust the dynamics and EQ here. That's going to give me a little more volume. See, now I'm getting feedback. I think that'll work a little bit better. Let's see, we'll set this here. That's probably too high. I'll leave the reverb off. Okay, I will go ahead and sort of get started on what I wanted to talk about today. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, the point of today's jam stream is going to be twofold. The first priority is going to be testing the new audio setup, and I won't really be able to do that effectively until I get more people coming through to let me know how the current sound settings sound. But in addition to that, unlike the previous streams, I didn't prepare anything in advance for this one as far as specific topics or specific sounds and beatboxing that I wanted to cover. Because we're doing sort of a trial run with the new hardware here, I wanted to basically run through the same practice patterns and drill structure that I've done before. And if I think of any sound-specific technique or breakdown things I want to go into, then I'll pause in whatever we're doing and talk about that a little bit. But until we get to that point, I'm still tweaking my settings a little bit here. Trying to make sure we are not super high, but not super soft volume-wise either. And it might be ultimately moot once I start practicing, since my beats are going to hit the mic harder than just my speaking voice. So we'll see how that turns out. All right, for the first part, I'm going to run through some warm-up drills and get my face warmed up, since I've been sitting here tweaking audio settings for the last 40 minutes before the stream started. But we will go ahead and get some basic warm-up drills started, and then I'll continue to monitor how the stream settings are going. Hopefully, if we get everything ironed out in this stream, then I won't need to spend time troubleshooting and doing quality control in the future. All right, let's see. I'll do some basic lip oscillation drills for warm-up so I can get ready to run into the actual practice stuff. So let's see. Switch. All right. Let me take a look at my sound list here. I'm going to be keeping my sound list file handy just for reference on the stream today, but I'm not planning on doing any structured sound overview stuff unless something occurs to me that I haven't talked about before. I need to go in here and correct what we covered last jam stream. I will do that later. But what I can do is continue with warm-up drills. I want to do some bass warm-up because unlike previous streams where I've started working in bass practice towards the end, I'd like to do that a little bit earlier this time to, one, be able to do my drills while my throat and voice are a little more fresh, and two, so I can sort of space out the practicing a little bit. So we'll go ahead and do some bass warm-up as well. Drop. All right. I think that's pretty good for warm up. We are probably going to get into some technicality drilling a little bit later. I always want to make it a point to reinforce the different technicality related stuff that we've been talking about across the different streams, and also sort of take a moment to experiment and come up with new ideas. And then another thing that I want to do maybe towards the end, we'll have to see with this new sound setup experiment we're doing, but I wouldn't mind testing out some ideas for a new BGM track. I've got a couple ideas in mind, and maybe we can do some brainstorming towards the end and talk about some potential for planning out a new track. But that will be for later. But we'll keep going through some drills. I'm going to do some variable tempo patterns here to mix up the different instruments and get more practice in switching between different sound sets. This will be sort of an extension of what we were doing before. I'm going to change the header here. We're going to be testing hardware the entire stream, but I'm going to change the caption to pattern practice. All right. And then as I need to, I'll change that up when it's necessary. So let's see. switch. Since the last jam stream we've done, I've been focusing bass-wise. I'm still practicing inward bass off and on. I still can't really do it yet, and it's not clean enough to the point where I want to start working it into practice sessions here on these streams. But I've actually been working on vibration bass a decent amount. And of the basses I know, I think throat bass and vibration bass are probably my favorite and most consistent right now. My vocalized chest bass is okay. I wouldn't say it's the best, and I'm still practicing that too. But when it comes to doing sort of heavy beats and drop oriented patterns, I've found that the kind of heavy reverberating sounds from vibration bass work pretty well for that. So that's primarily my go-to. Even dropping in pitch for a bass line and going something like a high throat bass into a vibration bass, where you might have a dropping down to and getting that sort of heavier resonating overtones is probably why I prefer doing, for low end stuff, more vibration bass. It's just a lot of it is control and being able to keep the tighter throat bass sound consistent up at the level where you're doing the note kind of like, and then when you drop down into vibration bass range, you're kind of switching and opening up the throat and vocal cords like we've talked about before, and you're allowing your vocal cords to resonate more, and so you're getting that more hard-hitting overtone on top of the bass. And that's how you go from the to the But I still feel like I need to work more on endurance for vibration bass because my ability to sustain it for a really long time is still somewhat limited. So let's see. We can continue working through some practice patterns. Still looking fine on the mic readout. I'm not seeing it peak, and when I'm doing my pattern practice, I see it hitting towards the yellow, but it doesn't seem to get towards the top end where it would normally be peaking. I guess we'll just have to see what people are hearing on their end, because I've got a couple different settings I can switch up here on my interface. But let's see. I'm going to run through a couple more pattern drills and start playing around with stuff, and then we'll sort of see where it goes. And I'm also going to refer to my sound list here to make sure I don't forget anything for practicing. All right, let's see. All right. I guess what we could do is do a short break from the straight drills and practice stuff, and I can actually talk about this piece of hardware that I've got set up as my interface for the jam stream today. In the past, and this is going to remain consistent on the non-beatbox related streams, normally when I have my microphone set up for streaming, I have it hooked up through a sound boosting device called a cloud lifter, and it connects to an external audio interface. I'm using a Scarlett. And that allows me to use the mic that I have for general commentary and talking, and it's pretty functional. For beatbox stuff specifically, there's a lot more I'd like to do in the future when it comes to beatboxing in these jam streams in general. The main focus is always going to be talking about sound, sound theory, and doing practice beats and pattern construction, and of course the BGM brainstorming stuff that we've done with chat before. But in addition to that, I want to also focus on some more music creation related things. And so for the beatbox setup, what I've got, I'm just tweaking some knobs here. I have my mic hooked up through a device called an RC-505 right now. And an RC-505, oh, that actually makes a pretty big difference. Let's keep that down here. An RC-505 is not primarily a sound interface, but it can be used like one. The device itself is actually a loop station. And if you're familiar with beatboxing stuff, you've probably seen loopers and loop station routines and competitions. It's a really powerful piece of hardware that can do a lot of stuff. And I've had this thing for several months. I've been slowly learning it and trying to practice and get good with it. And then I took a break for maybe about 2 months to solely focus on sharpening up beatbox sounds and basics. So I figured, because having this device as my sound interface for beatboxing would be helpful, because it's got a lot more settings that I know how to manipulate, and it also ties in pretty nicely to my desire to want to learn the instrument more. So what I plan on doing going forward is using the 505 as my sound interface for the jam streams, and probably more in the future, maybe not so much today, but in the future I want to do some more dedicated streams that are primarily working on learning the loop, because I'm absolutely a noob when it comes to this thing. I know how to do some pretty basic stuff. Hey, what's up, Milk? Welcome to the stream. Can you give me some feedback on the audio? If you're just jumping on, then you may have missed my explanation at the beginning when I was talking about getting settings in place with this new audio setup I'm using. Can you let me know how the mic sounds? Is it too loud? Is it too soft? How's it coming in for you on the broadcast? Okay, audio is good. All right, I'm going to keep it around here for the foreseeable future. I can sort of tweak things on the fly if it gets wonky. One thing I like about the 505 is I can devote specific system settings to things like the dynamics and EQ settings, and then I can just adjust those by turning a knob. And I can do that on the fly. And I can also add stuff like reverb to get an effect like this. And I guess what I can do, let's turn that off. I guess what I can do is sort of demonstrate how the loop works from a real surface level perspective. It's exactly what it sounds like. The RC-505 is a 5-track looping device with a whole bunch of instrumentation and powerful software stuff built into it. And let's see, if I were to load up one of the tracks here, and I'm going to see if I can do this on the first try, because I'm really bad at timing the actual sequencing for my loops, because I haven't practiced in a bit. But if I were to do a real simple beat and do something like, I can loop it like that. Right now, this is just me playing the track over and over again. I need to set my loop tracks to make sure they're not blaringly loud, since each track has its own audio setting. But just using a function like that, you can do a whole lot with these things. It's a really neat tool. But in addition to that, you can also do single capture stuff that doesn't loop, and it's basically like a drum kit or a drum machine where you do the push of a button. So let me do this. Let's say somebody on stream said or did something that was completely outrageous. I could do something like this. You know, bruh. And now I'll turn the reverb off. On tap, I now have a bruh button to use in the future, and it's just a push of a button. Like someone says something mean, bruh. Someone donates a lot of money, bruh. My freaking internet goes down again, bruh. That's a pretty fun one, and you can basically use it like an on-demand sound board, if you will, if you either load samples or you record stuff. I haven't really gotten into the sampling aspect of a Loopstation yet. That's going to be far off in the future once I know how to navigate it a little bit better. Yeah, overall, the 505 Loopstation is really neat, but it's very complicated to learn. And let's see, I could try and fiddle around with it a little bit as part of the jam stream. It wasn't really my intention to make this a loop learning stream, but considering I need to get better at it, maybe we can just mess around a little bit and try and show off some of the features. All right, let's see. Let's see if you can lay down a beat and get it to successfully loop. Part of the timing is making sure you're on beat so that you can cut the looped section off, and then it'll seamlessly loop whatever you're trying to do. So let's see, I'm going to give this a few tries. If any experienced loopers happen to see this, they'll probably be super embarrassed by my ineptitude, because again, I'm just learning. But let's see, we can try and do something like... Okay, I think my measures are too long. I'll try and do one repeated bar and see if I can get that to loop correctly before I worry about doing something too complicated. Okay, I think I got it. Got half beat off. It's a good thing I'm not a drummer. I'll get it eventually. All right, let me tweak my settings a little bit here. Yeah, I'm cutting it off a little too soon. Give me 1 second to mess around with my tempo settings here. That could be why I'm having trouble keeping the thing on time here. All right, I see what was causing the problem. One of the other tracks I had previously recorded on here was causing the time thing to get screwed up. So let me start over from the beginning, and I think I should be able to get it now. Yeah, okay. Get it a little bit closer. There we go. I need to make a mental note as to why that was causing me problems. I completely forgot that the other tracks can interfere with the beat when you're trying to add something else. Let me see if I can add a bass line to this. What I'd like is to get a good 2-level track so I can kind of demonstrate how some of the effects and the kind of neat track things you can do with the RC-505 work. Let's see. What we've got here is we've got 2 of the 5 tracks just playing autonomously, doing their thing. And I still have my on-demand single shot at the end. Bruh. 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 I'm gonna mess around with the sound balance a little bit. It's not something I'm terribly good at the moment. But if we jump over to effects, we have track, individual track level, and then input level, and then track effects. Sorry, still learning the terminology in these. So I wanted to add a filter effect to our really simple beat and bass line. Do something like this. Alright, it's not the filter one. There it is. That's the filter effect. It's pretty handy for being able to do sort of some distortion and, like the name sounds like an actual filter. And another good one that I was using earlier that I didn't mean to use. Beat repeat. You want to set up a drop. pretty useful. You can use the different track effects, which affect every currently looping track that you've got. That's why it's called track effects. You can combine them together, I think. So if I wanted to do... a little bit messy. This particular track effect is called Slicer. It chops up the beat, which is kind of a fun effect to use too. We're back to normal there. Bruh. 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 Another thing that's pretty handy about being able to manipulate things at the global level using the 505, if I wanted to, see if I can do this without screwing it up. Let's mess around with tempo. We're at 150 BPM right now. Suddenly gone from a kind of more chill hip-hop-ish beat to full-on drum and bass. Try the drop again. I'm going to drop another track effect here to sort of demonstrate. Ring modulator is kind of fun. A little bit situational. gonna go back to, I think it was 120. That's what we started on. Yeah, okay, we'll keep it there. All right, let's see. Where was the one I was looking for? Well, I guess it's just on the first one. There, beat scatter. The thing with the 505 that I've had to sort of get used to, that I am still getting my head around, is the fact that the different track level effect preset buttons, there's 3 of them, A, B, and C, they have different respective options for effects on each one. So I'm still learning how to sort of navigate that. But let's load up the beat here. I wanted to demonstrate beat scatter. So we got beat and bass line. Beat scatter is kind of fun. It basically screws around with the beat and chops it up and rearranges it. So depending on the beat that you've got, or the tracks you have looping, it can create an entirely different sound just by sort of chopping and screwing the tracks, which is kind of fun. Another one that's kind of novel is vinyl flick. It functions like a record scratch on the turntable. Maybe something like this. It's a bit more of a sort of interrupting effect, I think. You can't really do consistent scratches as far as I know, but I'm still learning how to kind of use that one. I forgot it's persistent too. Beat shift is another useful one. It sort of functions like the scatter, in that it moves the beat around. So if we apply it to this one, it's hard to tell for beat shift. It's basically sliding over a section of the beat. Pitch bend is not something I've really messed around with a ton, but it allows you to sort of screw around with the pitch of your tracks. Because I only have a bass line, it's gonna sound weird. Keep beat repeat on. It, 'cause, 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 let me stop for a second and pause. I've been letting that run for about 5 minutes. So the neat thing about having the 505 hooked up into my sound interface is, oh hey Edward, what's up? Welcome to the stream. If you jumped in sort of mid demo here, I was explaining how my Loopstation works that I have everything hooked up in for today. But for streams like the chill streams specifically, where it's just me talking and I don't need any external media playing or in the background, in addition to playing our BGM tracks that we've constructed and put into play, now that I have the 505 hooked up, I can actually create a background track on the fly. So we're talking, I can just have this is the one that we created just 10 minutes ago. But let's say I wanted to just talk to you guys about whatever, and then it was a pretty chill environment. I can create my own backing tracks for BGM on the fly if I need to, which is kind of handy. And all I have to do is really drop the track level so it's not too loud. If I leave it like this, but still keep talking to the mic, can you hear me okay, Edward? Am I competing with the background track too much? Okay, good. I'm still gonna have to learn how to balance things properly with the sounds here. I don't think the track level ones are affecting the actual mic. I could be wrong on that. Bruh. I don't know if you're sure we made that button, Edward, but now I now have a situational on-demand bruh button. Bruh. 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 All right. And drop this down a little bit. That's a real quick demonstration of some of the real basic surface level things that the 505 is capable of. I will be continuing to learn and adapt things for the jam streams like this. In fact, I could show you guys something cool. I just don't know if it's going to get me copyright flagged. Let's stop this here. Because the 505 has so many neat features related to sound, settings, and everything else, eventually in the future when I do karaoke streams, this is what I'm going to be using as my sound interface input, because it gives me a bit more flexibility what I can do compared to just some of the OBS plugins that I had set up. For example, the way I made the bruh button is simply applying the reverb. And to do that, all I have to do is go like this. And we have serious cathedral level reverb. Or I could turn it down a little bit. It doesn't have to be set that high. But I can manipulate a lot of this stuff on the fly, which is super handy. Just straight up turn it off. And if I was doing like a singing stream, being able to do that would be very, very handy and not have to worry about fiddling around with my capture software. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to jump over. I'm going to stick with the loop stuff for now. It's kind of a fun experiment. I didn't expect to get into it so much this stream, but let's update our status here. We'll do this in case anyone happens to jump in. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to mess around with the settings a little bit here. All right, let me test one thing with the sound, make sure I don't deafen myself. Okay, I think that's fine. Hopefully that doesn't come in dramatically different in sound for you guys. What they have included on the 505, which is really neat, is they have a bunch of preloaded loop tracks that people have composed and they put on here basically as sample things for you to mess around with. So what I want to do is real quickly do like an improvised song here with these because they're a lot more fleshed out than the stuff that I was just showing previously. But I don't know if this is copyrighted music. So worst case scenario, if I get flagged for the stream for doing this, I'm just going to edit it out. It's not a big deal unless somebody strikes me for it. But hopefully not, since this is just preloaded loops. So what we have here, this is a dubstep type song. It's 5 tracks, 5 different segments of an actual dubstep song. I'm going to equalize my volume here. And I'm just going to mess around with the stuff they have here so you guys can see what a more instrumentation constructed song with the Loopstation sounds like. And we'll see if I can do it without screwing it up because I didn't practice for this at all. We're just going to mess around. So let's see. This song is called Sky Relax. I should probably look up and see if there's an artist tied to this because it's a really neat set of tracks. Let's see. All right, that's that one. I don't remember which one is which. Yeah, I saw the audio jumping up a little bit, Edward. I'm gonna try and turn each track down. I may have to drop my mic settings in OBS because I'm almost at the bottom here. Alright. I think that might be as low as I can go before it actually cuts out completely on each track. Alright, now that I know which track is which, let me try try that again from the top. Let's see if I can get this without screwing it up this time. All right, that was a pretty poorly executed demo of how to manipulate tracks that have been preloaded. I probably should have prepared a little bit for this, but that's okay. At some point, we'll be able to where we can put together stuff like that. That's the whole intent of me trying to learn the loop. I want to be able to create some music related things. But I jumped back over to our demo track we've been doing here. This one, I can set the sound settings a little higher.
Bruh.
There we go.
Bruh. Bruh. Bruh.
All right. For the next segment of the jam stream, I think I'm going to go back and do some straight up beat practice here. Let's see. what did I record on this one again? This is the basic beat in the bass line. Okay, maybe we'll come back to messing around with the loop in a little bit. But for practice beats, let's see, we did some mixture of pattern construction and sound theory. Let me update the thing here again. I'm just going to put it back to pattern practice for the moment. That'd be good. If we go back to the loop, I'll update it again. So let's see. Should be good on general sound settings. So let's see. Switch. Switch. Oof. It's getting warm in here. Fortunately, it's not as bad as it was last week.
Bruh.
It's crazy. I think I mentioned it when I was streaming on Tuesday. Tuesday last week, but it ended up getting into the triple digits where I live. It was in some places up to like 115 degrees, which is pretty bad.
Bruh.
And I don't have air conditioning. Hopefully we don't see heat that bad for the rest of the season. All right, let me see. What else should I work on for practicing? Guess we can work on some technicality drills. I've been practicing the basic patterns we've talked about here on stream a few times. The TKPs and KPTs, my go-to triplet patterns, and the patterns I've been practicing off and on. But I'm continuing to work on my TKKs. They're not quite to the super speed continuous run point yet, but I think if I just keep plugging away at it and keep practicing, it'll get better. So for those that may have missed it on previous streams, for technicality or speed patterns, TKK is it's a hat sound, a K sound, and a rim shot. So altogether as a triplet pattern, it sounds like. And the tricky thing to master is getting the muscle memory and speed to the point where you can do that triplet thing back to back constantly. Kind of like I can do the all day. Eventually, when you practice TKKs, you can do it that fast and that continuously as well. But for me, the fastest I can get my TKKs right now is and it starts to lose its cleanliness towards the end. So let's see, we could do some basic TKK pattern practice, because I will get that one into a fully functional speed pattern at some point. It's just going to take more grinding. So we could do something like if you ever need a tongue workout, doing that particular repeated pattern over and over again is a lot harder than the TKP, the KPT for sure. But another thing I've been experimenting with for the TKK is how to string it into other technicality patterns. So I've been trying to work on a way to string it into the TKP. So if we went, that would be TKK, and then KPT into TKK again. So doing it slow would be very similar, but it has that different middle section. It's a 3-set triplet pattern of, I guess, 9 sounds total. TKK, KTP, TKK. So again, this is still very early on in prototype phase. I'm going to have to practice this a lot more. It would go. So it's got repeated hats in there, which makes it a little bit tricky. And it has the rim shot, which is a completely different tongue position than just the. So if we were to practice it slowly, this is how technicality patterns sort of evolve and get better. it would just be doing it as slow as possible to get it consistent and clean. And that would just be doing. And that one's going to be a work in progress. But I have found that the TKK can slot in fairly well to other patterns. It just takes practice to get it to flow kind of seamlessly. So if I was doing something like that last one was a bit better example of what I was trying to demonstrate. Being able to mix up the sounds and then throw TKKs in between is very useful. It's just difficult if you're not used to that combination of sounds in the pattern. So if we were to try it again, we might get something like and you can see how it's, again, I'm not doing it cleanly at all. But with mastery of that particular pattern, you can use it in place of other triplet patterns and work on customizing the different speed patterns that you use, and it can be pretty handy and useful that way. Let's see, what other technicality patterns did I want to focus on today? I haven't been practicing the inward ones that much. I've usually just been working them into patterns and routines. So the inwards triplet technicality patterns that I particularly do would be the sucker punch drag, or the quadruple pattern for 4-note instead of the 3, which is how you get the yeah, 4-note. All right, going through all of the practice stuff. I think that was most of the basic practice routines and patterns I wanted to do today. Again, I didn't prepare anything structured for this jam session. One, because I knew we were going to spend time testing the audio setup. And also because I didn't have any new sounds to overview today. For the next one, I might do a more dedicated learning the loop stream next time, and then have that be the focus. But we'll see. But before we wrap up for the day today, I wanted to do some brainstorming for BGM ideas for future BGM tracks. This will be the third one. the third one we're potentially planning. And because I have the loop set up now, in fact, that might make this a little bit easier because I'll be able to keep track of stuff and then experiment around with it. So let me update the stream status one more time, and this will be our last segment of the jam stream today. All right, BGM brainstorming. Let me make sure everything's still coming through here. Okay. I have this particular file on the loop saved, so I'll be able to come back to it later, so it won't matter if we delete stuff. Clear everything off, except our useful bruh button.
Bruh.
And now we can fiddle around with ideas for another BGM track. So the first one that I did, it was kind of a hip-hop-ish type beat. And it was about mid-tempo, simple throat bass line, and just a real simple snare hat, kick combo. I think for the next one, I want to do something a little bit faster. And we can mess around with beats here using the loop, which would be very handy. So the last one we did, which we came up with the help of Edward here on the chat, the Super Bossa Nova track is a lot more slow, and it's also fairly simple and minimalistic. It's a click, snare, and simple kick pattern, but it's more like a Bossa Nova pattern, which is how you got the. So to switch things up, I'd like to do something a little bit higher tempo. So maybe what I can do here is on the first track, see if I can capture a basic percussion beat. And we'll see. What if we did something like a... Could even do a filtered snare, so it'd be something like. Let's see if we can get that into a loop and see how it sounds. All right. You can experiment with how to get a good bass line for this one, and I'm using an instrument here on the loop called guitar to bass, which basically allows you to use your voice, and then it converts it into like an actual played on a guitar bass line, which is super handy. Let me stop this for a sec. So what that sounds like is. Sorry. If we were to not talk and actually do a bass line melody using this particular effect, then you might get something like. So let's see if what we can do with the bass line. I have a couple ideas that are already kind of in mind for this, and see if we can get it to sync up here. think I need to turn the bass setting down a bit. With that combination, we've got something that's a little more, I don't know, that's still kind of a hip-hop-ish type beat. It's got a bit more of a flow to it than the other one, which was a bit more basic.
Bruh.
That's not going to be part of the BGM. It occurred to me that I probably should have recorded these on different tracks. That's okay. If I need to recreate this, it shouldn't be too hard. Just thinking about putting a hi-hat run on there, but I did it a little bit off beat. Yeah, it doesn't sound good. If we were to take our track like we were doing before, and we could turn it into a drop. Let's see. I'm going to experiment with some other potential beats, and we'll just kind of match them up against the bass line, because I do like the bass line where it is. I think that's pretty functional. But let's see if we can mess around with the beats a little bit. The handy thing about doing the sound recording this way, using the loop and storing everything here, when I actually port things over to my audio recording software on my computer, I can just play the actual track from start to finish using the loop, and it'll actually be consistently on time. I won't have to manually edit everything together, which I did on the last couple. Alright, so if we stop here. What I have here are 3 tracks for the experimental BGM track here. I've got the first beat, the bass line, and then the second beat. And I thought they'd be dramatically different if we were to test them out side by side here. First beat sound like this with the muffled filter snare. Pretty simple. The second one I just recorded a second ago doesn't have a filtered snare on it, but it's got a bit more of a mix-up of hi-hats and sounds in between, and that sounds like... Interestingly enough, without even trying, I basically made the same beat but swapped out some of the snare types and added more hat. So you can actually play the two at the same time and it doesn't sound bad. So if we do that, it sounds like... It's not completely symmetrical. There is a slight offset, probably because I was a hair offbeat on one section. But the muffled filter snare on the first drum line actually makes it sound like it's punching a bit. If I up the balance and make that track louder, that's what it sounds like. Not really intentional, but I do think that's pretty functional, so I might keep that the way it is. So let's think of how we would structure the sound or the BGM track itself using these. In the past, I've done sort of a basic drum 2-measure intro or something like that. I think I did that on both the first and second tracks as a lead into the BGM, and then I start with the melody or bass line or whatever that's going to loop for a couple measures, and then it resets. These BGM tracks are not meant to be super complicated. They're just simple beat constructions that are, background music for when we're on stream. But what I could do for this one, to switch the formula up a little bit, I could start with the bass line and then bring the drums in after. So if we did that in order, it would sound like this. Which overall it's got kind of a groove to it. That's pretty functional. But I can also mess around with filter or track effects, which I've never done on any of the BGM stuff before because it was all edited on my computer. But we can make that part of the track when we're recording this, since this is just going to be plugged directly in like it is now. My software is going to capture everything. So we can mess around with stuff like filters. If you wanted to get really ambitious, you can even put a drop in here, which I don't know if I want to do for a BGM track, but it might be a fun experiment. Here's something I haven't really experimented with on this particular combination of tracks. I'm going to try the slicer, and that'll cut the beat up some more. Which is pretty fun. It essentially is creating a remix version of the beat within the beat. That's a good idea, Edward. Good point. We could start with I still think I want to keep the the bass line lead in for this one instead of just a straight drum line lead in like all the other tracks we've done. But if we did that on the first, after the first repeat measures of the bass line, when the drums actually come in, instead of doing both, we could try your idea and have the muted one first, and then maybe do like a filter transition, and then bring in the fully fleshed out second one layered on top. So basically the drum pattern is building in complexity and not intensity, because it's not really getting heavy or really aggressive, but it's going to build over time and it'll have like a transition. So let's try that. We're basically doing song prototyping here, which is kind of fun. All right. Turn slicer off. Take it from the top. Actually, first I'm going to save this. I do not want to lose all my work here. All right. So let's experiment with doing a sequence layering of drums like you're talking about. So we'll start with the bass line. Now the drums. I'm thinking maybe like a 2-measure repeat of the muted drum line before we transition into the full one. But let's see what it sounds like with the filter transition, and then I'm going to bring the third track in here. What I did is I went straight from the pseudo drop into the sliced remix beat, so now it sounds different. Got the drums out. Okay. I think I like the way that progression works a little bit better. It sort of sounds like the track is building in each iteration. And I think it would be funny, again, this was not my intention, but if we throw the drop in there and then switch to the sliced beat at the end, I think that'd be really kind of interesting as far as mixing up the sound, even though, again, it's a background track, so I don't know how much people are going to be paying attention. But let's actually put that into practice as if this was the real track being played out. So let's do it like this. A filter. Third drum track. Now going to the drop. That's filter, that's not drop. There we go. Going to the slice remix. messing around with the slicer settings to see if any of the cut up versions of the beat sound better than one we've been using. I think this one works the best. You think the drop should be a little shorter without the last part? You're talking about the really, really fast part right before it cuts back over to the main thing? So let me see. I'm going to put all the tracks on and see if I can duplicate what you're talking about. Is that what you're talking about, Edward? Having it go from 8th notes to essentially 16th notes. Whoop. 16. Just recorded over the wrong track. That's why we save our work. Anyway, is that what you're talking about? Not having it go into like the really fast 30-second note part of the drop. So going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then kicking out there. That cuts off a third of it. So let's try it again. My bad. Okay, yeah. I can definitely vibe with that version. I guess if you were doing like a really crazy drop that was going to be like a bunch of basses and be more dubstep-ish, having the lead up with the super fast part of the drop might make more sense. But again, this is just a background track, so it doesn't need to be super fancy. All right. Good. I think we can go with that. So let's take it from the top and put that into play. And then I'm still going to keep the transition to the sliced beat. Remember where I set this here. So let's see if I can do it in one shot without screwing it up. Go for the drop. Try that again. There we go. I think I triggered the drop a little bit too late. Let me try that section again. There we go. All right. All right, yeah, I like the way that transitions. I screwed up the drop segment again when I was trying to run through it from the top. Let me try it one more time. All right. I think that gives us a pretty functional starting point for the track. I like the way everything sort of fell into place there, and then we have a couple different switch ups. In the middle, we've got a drop, quote unquote drop. Then we have a remixed chop version of the beat, and then we'll have one section where it goes back to normal, and then that should be it for the whole track. What I've done is when it loops back, you can do the same thing, but starting with the second drum beat. Oh, so you're talking about doing potentially 2 full repetitions of the whole thing, but on the second go around after the last section of the normal beat? Are you talking about just the tail end of the normal beat with just the second drum, or starting off with the second drum in a full repeat of the whole thing from the beginning? So let me try and duplicate what I think you're saying here. I think I get it. So let's say we're coming off the drop. We'll do the drop into the slice beat. I don't know why it keeps doing that one. There we go. So what I did there, Edward, is we went from the drop to the sliced beat, and when the regular beat comes back in for the last section before the end of the song, instead of doing both of the drum lines, I did just the second one. So were you talking about doing just the second one on the end, or doing a regular one with both and then looping all the way back to the beginning and starting with the second one from the very start? Because I could do either. Either of those could be interesting. It would essentially mean the whole track is going to loop the entire thing twice, but it's going to start off with different drums, which, again, that could work. It would essentially start off like this. Yeah, I'm going to have to experiment around with the drop. I think it's because if I hit the beat repeat before the measure fully restarts, it's causing the part to repeat that's the end of the first measure instead of the start of the new one. So let's see. I'll try it again here. Yeah, I wonder if I'm doing it too early. No? Okay. Alright, I think I get you, Edward. Let me see why I keep screwing up the drop. I wonder if I'm setting this thing too high. Huh. Weird. All right. If you're talking about two different loops. You're talking about a starting with the first one, doing a full repeat of everything we've done, and then on repeat starting with the second one and doing a full repeat of everything we've done. If I get what you're saying correctly. So if we do that, let's take it from the top, and then I'll try and do a full repeat without screwing it up. We'll see. If anything, I'm going to screw the drop up again. Let's try it. Okay, we're going to repeat. Yeah, I screwed the drop up on the second time. But I think, well, the challenge would be if I did two full repeats again, I'd basically have to not screw up the drop and the transitions all at once, but I think that would be doable. I wonder what happens if we do a lower setting on the beat repeat for the drop. Do a quarter. That's interesting. Not necessarily the effect we're going for a drop.
Bruh.
All right. Yeah, I think that'll work. I'll play around with the different formats, but I think doing the two full loops with the alternating drum beats is a good way to mix things up. I guess the only other real question to figure out before we wrap up here for the day is, what are we gonna call this one? What's the mood and the vibe for this particular BGM track that's appropriate? I'm not calling it the Bruh song, so just in case you were thinking of suggesting that. What would be a good name for a mid-tempo kind of groove vibing type song? We could call it Vibin'. sliced up version of the beat with the different drum tracks has a pretty contrasting sound. Maybe I can do one on one slice beat, and since it's going to do a full repeat, do the other one on the second repeat. So the first one would sound like this, and the second would sound like this. Pretty similar, but subtly different. While we're sort of wrapping up here, and we'll see if any good ideas for a track name come up. One thing that I could potentially mess around with, which could be fun, I need to make sure I don't save this, otherwise it's gonna be a problem later. If we take our beat, our full beat, currently at 101 BPM, now we go up to 130. Kind of a breakbeat sounding song now. Let's go back down to where we were at. Just vibing. So it's just a vibing stream. A just vibing stream. I like it. I like it, Edward. I'll have the footage from the stream today in case I forget that that's what we're going to use for the name. Let me see.
Bruh.
Yep. Still works. Okay. Well, good. I think that is going to do it for today's jam stream. This sort of went in a different direction than I was intending. I thought I'd be spending more time doing beatbox drills and practice, and then just introducing the loop, since this device is going to be my sound interface going forward for these types of streams. But the actual loop experimenting was really fun. Hopefully it was interesting for you guys to get a glimpse into how it works as I learn how to use it. But I think the next time we do a jam stream, and I haven't decided what the schedule is going to be for next week. I'm going to be writing that up tonight, and it'll go up on Twitter once I finalize the dates. But if we do another jam stream next week, it's probably going to be a dedicated continued loop learning and experimenting around with music stream. I could probably mix up some beatbox stuff too, especially if folks come in with questions. I'll put my BGM track on here for added effect. But next week, for sure, we'll be going back to at least one drawing stream, and maybe, well, one gaming stream for sure, because we need to keep working on Nocturne. At some point, I'd like to pick up a 4th day for streaming. Right now I'm doing 3. It's kind of difficult with my current schedule, but that's on the horizon. But maybe we can do a mix next week and have another jam stream. Maybe that'll be a 3rd one. I don't know. I want to get back to doing this stuff again because, again, it was a lot of fun experimenting around with this thing, and I need to get better at using it. But I think that will do it. Thanks again to all the folks that stopped by, and thanks to Edward for helping participate in today's BGM brainstorming session. I'll probably do another one next time we have the loop hooked up, just because it's easy for me to store what we're working on in here. So if that ends up happening, then we may have 2 potential new tracks in the works, and I just have to record them and then mix them. That'll be on the horizon. But until next time, once again, thanks again for hanging out. I will catch you guys later. Have a good evening.